Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another virtual Just Lunch, continuing along with our theme of Stories of Hope. I'm Maddy. I'm a first-year History and English student at Hildbead College, and I will be the treasurer for Just Love this year. So in today's Just Lunch, we are going to be hearing from my mum. I'll be interviewing her, talking to her about her job, which is working with refugees and vulnerable women and teaching them English. So I'm really excited for you all to see that. In the meantime, notices for this week. So on Friday, we have Just Prayer, where we meet together and pray over certain justice issues at the moment, looking at articles and really praying into them. If you want to join, there's a group on Facebook for that. And then also, I'd like to talk to you quickly about June for Justice, which we'll be doing in the month of June to raise money for IJM, International Justice Mission, who work to combat modern-day slavery and human trafficking, and there'll be more information on that coming soon. But in the meantime, I hope you really enjoy this Just Lunch together.
Hey guys, I hope you're all well and enjoying the lovely weather that we're having at the moment. For the Bible thought today, we're looking at Hannah's prayer and her faithfulness to God. It can be found in 1 Samuel chapter 2 verses 1 to 11, and I'm going to use the Message version just because I find it a lot clearer. Hannah prayed, "I'm bursting with God news, I'm walking on air. I'm laughing at my rivals, I'm dancing my salvation. Nothing and no one is holy like God. No rock mountain like our God. Don't dare talk pretentiously, not a word of boasting ever. For God knows what's going on. He takes the measure of everything that happens. The weapons of the strong are smashed to pieces, while the weak are infused with fresh strength. The well-fed are out begging on the streets for crusts, while the hungry are getting second helpings. The barren woman has a house full of children, while the mother of many is bereft. God brings death and God brings life. He brings down to the grave and he raises up. God brings poverty and God brings wealth. He lowers and he also lifts up. He puts poor people on their feet again. He rekindles burned out lives with fresh hope, restoring dignity and respect to their lives, a place in the sun. For the very structures of earth are God's. He has laid out his operations on a firm foundation. He protectively cares for his faithful friends, step by step, but leaves the wicked to stumble in the dark. No one makes it in this life by sheer muscle. God's enemies will be blasted out of the sky, crashed in a heap and burned. God will set things right all over the earth. He'll give strength to his king. He'll set his anointed on top of the world." Okay, so just for a bit of context, the book starts by looking at a man called Elkanah and his 2 wives, one of which is Hannah. So at the moment, Hannah's just heartbroken because she cannot provide children for Elkanah, unlike the second wife. And so she feels that she cannot fulfill the duties of being his wife as she cannot bring him this gift. The first chapter talks all about the pain that she is suffering, and she goes to Eli and she explains why she's upset, and we see her praying to God for a long time. Within the year, amazingly, she gives birth to a son, who is Samuel, and this prayer is her rejoicing that her prayers have been answered finally and that God has been faithful to her yet again. I think this passage is amazing because it is a story of trust and of hope, but also how to be patient. If we feel let down or that something we've been asking for continually hasn't happened, we can learn to be like Hannah and continue to trust in God. There have been so many times that I can be stubborn and impatient and look at situations and think, why hasn't this changed, or where is God in this? And I can even look at other people's situations where their prayers have been answered and feel let down. But then I look at so many of my own situations and realise that actually, of course, God has been there in those times. And we can see so many examples of this in the Bible, including the example of Hannah. Hannah has gone through the pain of not thinking she can ever have a child, and this has become a reality to her for so many years. The one thing she feels that she doesn't have, and she still trusts in God. It also shows that we can keep asking like Hannah does. If we can't see change, we don't just give up. We can accept that it might be a different plan to God's, or maybe it hasn't even happened yet, but we can keep asking and keep talking to him. Hannah shows how faithfulness in prayer is so important. She also rejoices in God's raising the poor from the ashes and seating them on a throne of honour. Ultimately, God cares for the vulnerable and seeks to exalt them above all, and I think that we can find this really reassuring too. She shows us that it is not through our own strength that we are able to do justice, but by God's strength. I don't know about you guys, but often when I'm thinking about or reading up about all the injustices in the world, I can feel so helpless and that I can't do anything, especially at the moment of just being at home. In line with this, and I think with this week's talk, I found this a lot last year. I was working in a refugee camp and I found it very hard to trust God during this time and found myself feeling pretty angry at him while I was out there. To see the suffering and the pain and wonder how God could be in this situation at all. But then I tried to remember to trust in God, even in these times, and know that there is so much hope and peace once we give it over to him, and when we remain faithful to him, just like we see in Hannah's story. Her prayer is so helpful to remind us still to rejoice and trust in God, and that it can be comforting to know that God cares for these people so much more than we can even imagine.
So I'm joined now with my mum, Natasha, and I just think we're going to, first of all, get to know you a bit better before we talk about what you do and the stories of hope that you can tell us about. So let's just do some quick fire questions. Tea or coffee?
Coffee, always.
Dog or cat?
Neither. Scared of both, really.
Sun or snow?
Always sun. The hotter the better.
Pizza or pasta?
Pasta, probably.
And then, like, my personal favourite. Would you rather be chased by 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
The horse-sized duck.
Imagine though, the beak and the wingspan. Anyway, let's get on to asking you a bit about what you do. So first of all, just tell us, introduce yourself if you want, and also tell us what your project is.
Okay, so my project is called SELAM. That stands for Speaking English, Learning and Meeting. And it's an English class, and it is English classes for women. We meet 3 mornings a week, and we're based at local churches here in Croydon in South London.
Sounds great. Do you want to just talk to us a bit about how the project came about? Yeah, what its beginnings were, and
okay,
how it all started.
Yeah. So we came back about 8 years ago from working in Ethiopia. And when we got back here, I didn't really want to be living here, to be honest. I wanted to be working with people from other countries. I started working for an anti-trafficking charity here in Croydon, doing admin for them. And then as part of that role, I started meeting more people, particularly through an organisation called Migrant Help, who have a big refuge centre here in Croydon where trafficking victims go. So as I started meeting them, I thought, I'd really like to be working with people rather than in the office. Yeah. So anyway, God really put that on my heart. And then while I was that thought was brewing, I decided to do a TEFL qualification, teaching English as a foreign language. And then also around that time, I was talking to our vicar about it, and she said there was going to be a service coming up, which was a big service when people could talk about their visions and what they'd love to see happen. And she said, why don't you talk about your English, your sort of TEFL passion? Yeah. And so I did. So I stood up in front of the church and said, I'd love it if our church could start these English classes. And I kind of didn't really, it was just like this vague idea. Yeah. But at the end of that service, I met this lovely girl who I'd never met before, called Rachel, and she said, that's just what I'd love to do. She said, I've been doing that, working in South Africa with people who really, very needy people in South Africa. I'd love to do something like that with you. So she then took her TEFL qualification, and little by little we started researching these classes. About 6 months later, we were ready to start. One of the things we'd decided fairly quickly, we were trying to work out how the classes were going to run, and we realised all the other classes that are similar in this area are mixed for men and women, and in fact predominantly men go to them. Yeah. And we realised that actually the reason that women don't get to these classes is because often when families come here to live, the women are the ones who stay at home with the children, or husbands go out to work, children go to school, the women culturally just stay in the home. And so women are very confined and don't get out. So we decided to start our classes for women only. We also knew that many strict Muslim families, the husbands would be happy for their wives to come along because there wouldn't be any men involved. Yeah. And we knew that we would also have to supply childcare, a creche, which has been quite a challenge, but that's been part of our class, and actually one of the big draws, that women can come along, know they're in an all-female environment, all the teachers are female, everyone's a woman, but also know that they can bring their children along with them.
Great, and tell us about the first week then. So the first time your class ran, what happened?
So, as I say, we'd sort of done 6 months of research and planning. We'd got our qualifications. We've got a few other people in our team. We put a lot of adverts out, sort of for the half term before, in doctors' surgeries, in local schools, and local churches. And we were sort of pushing it. We'd had a few phone calls, I think maybe 3 or 4, from people who were interested in coming. But literally that first week was kind of a, okay, God, this is, let's see, is this meant to happen or not? I think we got 5 women along that first week, really lovely women. And through that first half term, I mean, God, all the way through, God has just got this right for us. But if we'd started with a class of 30, I think we would have just drowned. So actually, it was really good that we only got a few. All through that first term, we only got 5, 7, maybe 9, just very low numbers. But we were able to kind of practice on them, and we were able to learn very quickly things like there's no way we could have one class. We very quickly needed to split. It was exciting, actually. That after that first class, I just remember feeling really excited, like, this is going to work.
And so what does it look like today? I guess, are you doing anything at the moment, considering the circumstances and not being able to meet in person?
Yeah, so we're really sad because it's kind of built up to a really big, classes. It's almost like a school now, there's several levels of class each time we meet. We get a good 30 to 35 women along each time. So obviously we've had to stop meeting during lockdown. We have taken our classes online, and that's been good, but we haven't had masses of women joining us, probably between 8 and 12 women to each time we meet. It's good. I mean, it's giving them an opportunity to be together if they want to. But unfortunately, a lot of our women, especially the ones that are illiterate or, from very traditional backgrounds, maybe even, the refugees who are living in hostels, are just not able really to access Zoom easily. So it's not ideal, and we're sad. We can't wait to get back.
So can you give us some kind of an indication about how many people there are that have come through your doors, how many ladies help out, and how many come for the classes? And also maybe talk a bit about why Croydon's kind of quite a key location for these kind of classes.
Yeah, so as far as how many people have come through, I have no idea. I mean, we have a register with like 50 name slots on it, and each term we start a new page, and those 50 name slots are taken up, but we don't get 50 women along. We'll get some women that will come and just come for a week or so and then leave. Some women come year after year. I mean, well over 100, between 100 and 120.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be more.
What nationalities as well?
So we've got people from all different backgrounds and areas. We've got a lot of Asian women. We've got Indian, Pakistani, Bengali. We've got women from China and Japan. We've got a lot of refugees from Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran. We've got a whole group of women from South America. Their husbands work in the embassies in London. They come here. Chile, Colombia, Argentina, Uruguay. We've got women from Europe, Eastern Europe. A lot of women who've come through the refuges in Croydon are Albanian or Romanian. And we've got some au pairs. Yeah. So all sorts, yeah. So Croydon's... Sorry, so you asked about my team, didn't you? So the team, I reckon we've got about 14 on our team at the moment. So we've got several levels of class, as I said, including an amazing literacy class that is run by a former missionary who's just turned 87. And she lived in South Sudan and taught people how to read. So it's her passion. She's an absolute teacher through and through, but she's brilliant with the women that come and don't have any idea about our alphabet, the Roman alphabet. So she'll teach them their letters, and then another retired lady will help teach them very simply how to read. So they work with the Afghans and Chinese, for example. Then we've got a beginners class, which is quite a fluid title for sort of anyone who's either very unconfident or actually really very low on skills. Then we've got sort of a middle class, and then we've got an advanced class. Now the advanced class, I would say most of those women don't really need, it would be like a fairly confident girl who possibly even works in a shop some of the time, but they come for company.
Yeah.
And that's really a very positive thing about being women only as well. It's very sociable and people get to make good friends. And then we have quite a big creche team. So our creche is slightly mad. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the kids can't understand English, and it's in the same room as the classes because, well, partly for health and safety reasons, although we are all DBS checked, but just to make sure that the women understand where their children are. They're not actually separated from them, because they never usually are in everyday life. A lot of these women, they just live with their children all the time. No such thing as nursery or anything like that for them. But that makes it very noisy. So we have sort of 2 or 3 creche helpers each time as well. And Croydon is a good place for this because it's London's biggest borough, Croydon. It's very multicultural. One of the biggest things about it is that it's has the Home Office here, so anyone coming into Croydon from outside the EU has to get their visas and immigration papers processed here. And a lot of the people, unless they're in a very vulnerable situation, in which case they're sent elsewhere in the country, but a lot of people choose to stay around here. So it's actually perfect. And in fact, the church that we work alongside our English classes, so once a week we teach alongside the Refugee Day Centre in West Croydon, which is just literally 100 metres down the road from the visa and immigration processing place here in Croydon. So it's a perfect place to do this.
Great. So, do you want to just share with us any stories of hope that have emerged from the classes, and where you've seen God working through SELAM English class?
So I think, to be honest, so many of our women are stories of hope. A very dear friend of ours who's just gone back to live in Japan came to us about 5 years ago. She was referred by her neighbour who goes to our church. She's a very shy Japanese lady over here because of her husband's job, her kids at school, and she just knew no one. She was so lonely and also very shy, very culturally, quiet. But little by little over the years, our relationship with her has grown to the extent where her English has improved hugely, but also she has grown so much in confidence. In fact, she's just gone back to Japan, and we've sort of sent her back with an English book encouraging her to start working alongside people who'd like to practice their English so that she could do that. But one of the most exciting things with her, which makes her an especial story of hope, is that she really wanted to know more about our faith. And so we started a Bible study that other people have come along to a little bit, but mostly it's been her. And we've just been able to look at the Bible with her and pray with her through the last 2 years or so. And that's been so exciting. So I would say one of the really good things as well with our classes is that it's almost like a mission situation here in the UK, where we're absolutely able to talk about our faith, and we do, particularly at certain times of the year, like Easter and Christmas, we talk very much about our faith as Christians, what a difference that's made to our lives, and we're able to talk to our women openly about that. And they know, we're not shoving it down their throats or giving it as a, you've got to believe or you can't come. It's nothing like that. But we're saying to them, this is why we do what we do. This is what we believe. This is our good news. This is our hope. So that's exciting. There's also another lovely friend who came from Pakistan near the beginning. Again, she hadn't done anything like this before. She'd never sort of been outside the home to do anything. And then little by little, she started building up her English and her confidence. She went to help at her kids' Christmas fair. I remember that was the first thing she did sort of outside the home. It was really exciting for her. And then as a result of that, she started getting to know her children's teachers, and they said, would she like to train through the school as a teaching assistant? And she did, and now she's working as that, and she always says it's because of the SELAM classes that she's got the confidence to do that. But there are there were so many of our women, to be honest, that we've just seen growing confidence, and as they leave us, often women will only come for a short time, then they'll move on. They'll be in tears and just saying, this has just been my friendship base, my, the place where I've sort of found hope and confidence. So it's a really exciting thing to be involved in. And I think the women-only aspect does bring a lot of advantage to the depth of relationship we can build.
Yeah, that's so great. And I've come to the classes before, I've helped out at them before, and they are really great. I love them. So looking forward, do you have any aspirations or dreams for the future? And in that, do you have any prayer requests for people watching? Maybe a particular message for people watching?
So I think probably going forward, I'd love to see other churches taking this up as something that they can do. I think some people sort of feel like you have to be this amazing teacher person to do this, but actually, okay, we're TEFL qualified, the people who lead the class, but a lot of our volunteers aren't. Yeah. All you need to do is be able to learn to speak English like we can speak it, to be able to help someone and befriend them. And I think churches are well able to do that. Yeah. So I'd love to be able to encourage, my aspiration is to sort of see other churches in our local area or around the UK picking this up and seeing this as something which actually is really manageable. It's really a good thing to do. It's not only reaching out to our community and showing love to the foreigner, which is obviously what the Bible talks about so much, but it's also so that's a very practical thing, but it's also like spiritually, it's massive. It's such a good way to be able to reach people with, if we can't go to other countries ourselves, actually loads of other countries have come here. So it's a great way to meet people in that way as well. And I guess prayer requests, I'd say just that we just stay energized and infused. It's hard work. I mean, I've given the sort of the bright side, and it's wonderful. It is my passion and it drives me, but it's also tiring, obviously. And so just enthusiasm and energy to keep going, but mostly just give praise, because God has answered so many prayers, spoken and unspoken over the years. He's opened doors, he's closed doors, the people he's brought along are amazing, the students and the teachers, the people that have been impacted, that it has been a real experience of God's provision and faithfulness throughout.
So finally, this is so cool to hear about. I guess for a lot of people, it's so cool to hear about what you're doing here in Croydon. But if there's going to be like one message for people to take home, or one idea for people to take home that you've learned through doing this class, not directly related to it, but from what God's done for you and for everyone through the class, what would that be?
I mean, I think God's a God of relationship, and I think the number one message that we need to get across, whether it's to people from other countries or whether it's to people in the UK, is that God loves you and wants a relationship with you. And so I would say that actually my English classes have been a way of showing that to people, but that actually we can do that, we can do that with one person, can't we? That we can each take that away, that actually by us building a relationship and just sharing our lives with people, that through that we can bring God to people. So okay, that's so cool. Thanks a lot for talking to us today, and so that's all from us too, if you want to say bye. See ya.
Hi everyone, so this week's challenge is going to be a letter writing one. So we were a little bit inspired by Just Love Bristol's letter writing kind of campaign, and we thought we'd adapt it. So ours is going to be Letters of Hope, to go with our Stories of Hope theme, and we're going to be writing letters of encouragement or just stories of hope you've heard recently, and we'd like you to write 3 letters. That's 2 to friends, and then 1 to a refugee, and we recommend you do this through CARE's Letters of Hope campaign. It's a really great campaign which is designed to just show refugees who might be out there questioning whether the outside world really cares, that we see you and we do care. So I'll leave the link to CARE's kind of they've got a template. It's really easy to fill out and just send off. So I'll leave the link to that in the Facebook page and on the Just Love Durham Instagram bio. So yeah, get writing.
Hi guys, hope you're doing well. I just want to share some updates about prayer as a Just Love community. At such a time as this, we really want to press deeper into prayer, and even though it feels like a lot of things have been cancelled, we want to tell you guys that prayer isn't. And we're going to be joining together as a community at 9 AM on a Friday on Zoom, and we're really excited for this as an opportunity to press deeper into God, and for this to be a real space of encounter. We really begin to share God's heart, and a place where God begins to break our hearts for what breaks His.